What's going on, workforce? Brian and Chris here, and today we're leading the hype up to Endwalker's live letter 66. This is where we're going to get a lot of the detail information we've been wanting, craving, waiting for since FanFest, and that's going to be happening this Friday. But we thought what would be something awesome and fun as we go into the live letter this Friday is just to talk about what we expect, what we hope for, and we've got some videos planned for you guys this week that are going to hopefully just get you really excited as we are. But first, Chris, you asked this question today of chat. Why don't you repeat the question itself? What are we talking about today? And let's have some fun with this video.
So this live letter was one that came after the media tour last time. So things are out of order. And so based on what we've seen from this live letter in past expansion cycles, going into this Friday, what is something that you expect to see, something we have not seen that we do expect to get before Endwalker, that you're really excited about this weekend, even though you know it's coming? And then what is something that it would blow your mind? You know it's not coming this Friday, but you of course hold out that, that little glimmer of hope that this might be when they reveal something.
So I think to answer the question, for me, what I'm most excited about, I don't know what the follow-through answer is because it could be disappointment, but I'm most excited for, well, and that's just the way the internet is. It's, they changed it 0.5%. It's ruined. I really cannot wait to see what they have changed with Summoner. I think that for me is that bar. And then right below that, obviously Scholar. I think there's, obviously them still being like tied together. Don't know if that will ever change in the future. I think Shadowbringers brought them, made them as different as actually, as humanly possible without splitting them into their own, job crystal or something like that. But I really think we're obviously going to get more information about the battle system changes because they're not going to sit on that till November. But for me, the most exciting thing would be the Summoner Scholar. What changes are we going to see with that? Yes, I am excited for Sage. This isn't a Sage or Reaper diss at all. Yeah. But as a summoner and as a former summoner and a former Scholar main, that is something that it's just kind of that curiosity in me is wondering, will we see something machinist level, like full on redesign of the job itself? And I really appreciated what they did with machinist. I'll go into the hypothetical here in a little bit. Chris, what's the number one thing for you?
The job action trailer is going to be stunning regardless. There will be some moment where, like Machinist last time, where we didn't know we were excited about Machinist until a robot appeared. And then we were all like, oh my God. And so obviously surprise would be exciting. But I think for me, I'm looking at the two things that I feel like I'm talking about really loosely because we don't know better. And so that's tank changes and how big the stat squish is. And so like, either one of those getting answered, I'd kind of put it my top thing. And just tank changes across the board. I'm, of course, a Warrior main, but I don't think Warrior's going to change that much. And so I don't know that any of the tanks are going to change that much. And I think there's been so much focus put on Reaper and on Sage that as a tank main, it does feel like, so are we just going to kind of like drift our way into the next expansion? So I look to see kind of what do the tanks look like, and then not expecting that to be a lot. What I want to take away that I do expect them to touch on is the damage scaling. And I think that because like if we see any flying text, we're immediately going to be able to start doing the math.
Oh yeah.
And so if there's any flying text on a dummy, that's immediate. Like people are going to go, wait, I saw what that Fire 4 hit for. And that's going to start cluing us in on how big that stat squish is going to be.
Mm-hmm. So
potentially,
right. Potentially the thing that'll be interesting to see if they actually do show that, because the job action trailer itself never has really shown numbers. It's just like, it's skills right. And more.
Just the trailer. It's just animations.
To kind of call back, because one of the things you've been doing on stream is actually kind of going back and rewatching like Work to Game years ago, right? So it's like, here's like the Shadowbringer stuff. And I think it's really exciting to see how that concluded, where for me, Paladin and Dark Knight stood out as the most exciting of the existing skills, because it had that for me, Final Fantasy Tactics feel right in those skills. And so it's going to be really curious to see as they introduce new skills to the existing jobs, do they pull from like any prior game that kind of gives it that kind of theme? And in this case, obviously Final Fantasy IV is a massive theme into the Endwalker, obviously building off of Shadowbringers, Dark Knight to Paladin. For anybody who hasn't seen that or played that expansion, you can now get it on the Pixel Remaster Edition. And I hear there's even rumors that you might be doing some classic Final Fantasy games on stream here soon.
If time should create itself, yeah, I would look forward to, if I have some downtime between now and Endwalker that I'm not playing 14. I'd love to go back and play some old Final Fantasy games.
So then going into I guess the realm of what I don't think it will happen, but would blow my mind in the first place. The first thing, and I've really been thinking about this as we've been doing community game nights and stepping back into Eureka. Like I just feel like the system is not complete in like the first zone, where in Zadnor and in Boja, like you have the lost actions. Obviously it was the evolution of that system itself. And then I can't help but think this is definitely not happening. I want to repeat that right now.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Because we still haven't even gotten data center visit. Not a chance. We still haven't even gotten data center visit yet added. But when I look at that piece of content, I just look and just kind of start to crave a kind of a mega server in which the data center is the server and the worlds are basically just instances of the zones themselves, where the game just kind of handles it, right? Because then pulling out Eureka from an instance, pulling out Zadnor and Boja from an instance, and they're literally just a zone, and people go into that zone and then they're there to do the content. Like, I love that so much. Playing Eureka in 2021 is so thrilling. Like, for me, I don't know what it is. It's the old school in me, but then I'm sitting here like no level sync, like no chocobo, can't do tells, like all the things that you have to sacrifice to go into that content. And that's just it was just a constant reminder of why I don't do that and why you have to schedule that. Like, it literally using Discord or a third-party tool is how that content still lives to this day. And so I'd love to see some aspect of them looking at the health of the game and saying, like, how do we protect and preserve that? Now, mega servers, I think, are a long ways away, maybe a couple expansions at a minimum, just based off the sheer amount of work that would be required. But ultimately, I think that would be something that would blow my mind if they start talking about that. I see Chad also talking about how they're going to they're excited for Island Sanctuary.
We don't even know what that is.
Right. Do you think that's
going to happen? We just know that it is a thing.
Do you think that's going to happen with the launch, or is that like a 6.1 or a 6.2 kind of deal?
I think I'd put it at 6.1, and I would tie it to the news story, and I would tie it to be kind of part of that kind of side style content that builds, right? When we talk about things like Relic, Deep Dungeons, Ishgard Restoration, these things that we take with us over the expansion, I think I would kick it out to 6.1. Personally, I think that we've got plenty to tackle in 6.0. And I would just let 6.0 be 6.0.
Right.
So, yeah.
So the question of the outrageous thing that would blow your mind, what would that be to you?
I mean, so we've heard Yoshi P say that he would love to be able to address Praetorium, Castrum, Cape Westwind at some point. We don't have any context on when that is. We've heard that they're ready to start tackling housing. We've got some light details about what that might look like, but still more questions than answers. We've heard questions about the bicolor gem system, and it will not be the Zadnor Bosja like boss fate type system, because that's just not really built out to be that next expansion. And it's like, we've heard about things like trusts. We've heard a lot about what we expect to continue in Shadowbringers, what we expect to iterate in Shadowbringers. And when I look at the biggest pain point, that's not tied to something massive like in a Realm Reborn rework of, or something like that, where we go back and voice the whole thing or something crazy. I think the biggest pain point, that's something we all interact with, that's just clumsy compared to the tech they can do now, is the market board. The inability to kind of search it easily, the inability to post easily, the inability to manage multiple retainers listings easily. It's something we deal with just day in and day out. And there's been nothing announced about it getting better. There's no evidence it's going to get better. And having played WoW, I watched WoW let their market board go until literally Ian said it became the critical bottleneck before they addressed it. And then they went to address it in patch 8.3 live in the middle of an expansion. And the rollout was this short-term just disaster. It's just like, well, we went to roll it out. We accidentally lit our whole neighborhood on fire, but it's okay. We're going to rebuild. And so like they did get it fixed, but it was just, they waited for it to get so bad. And so I don't think it's at that critical bottleneck now, but I've already seen what happens if you wait till it's the bottleneck. there was like all sorts of items lost and like who's losing money, who's making money. It was just, and then everybody feels that they lost money and everybody else made money. It's just a huge pain point. And I think that in the process of dealing with that, that allows them to tackle a lot of underpinnings and how UIs work, how the glamour dresser works, how the armory system works. I think there's a lot of like item ID.
Yeah.
There's a lot of back end that ties to the market board that would just start to question, how do we track and store items in general, whether they are in a state where they can be purchased by another player or they're just in my own private inventory? And so I think the market board would be a huge technical leap that would allow us to take on like, oh, I go to search for things. And if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, and yes, like the partial search was a godsend, but
oh yeah,
you don't know
massive.
what you're heading towards. Like if you're just like, oh, I just want like gear for my character, or I just want to buy Orchestran scrolls I don't have, or I just want to find food that has CP on it. Like that's all really cumbersome.
Yeah. The it's an interesting point because it's something that I haven't put much like thought into, but you're right. Like when it goes to selling and buying on the markets, it is a little bit of a chore, especially when you go and you're putting up something for sale and you see like, oh, it's normally 100, gil each. And then you just see, vendor price, because the system, right. Well, yeah, you just want to be like, all right, fine, buy. But no, you have to stop what you're doing, go to the market board, purchase them, then go back. So it's like that in and of itself would help, I guess, overall protect, bottom out of markets on when somebody doesn't know. The other side of the coin would also, I would love to see, as I've been playing Guild Wars 2 and been playing New World, both those games have the ability to order, like as a player, you're saying, I would like 100 of X and I'm going to put the money up front, and somebody could then choose just to go ahead and sell it at the price that I'm willing to buy it right away. So you don't end up having this sense of where people are just literally listing things at vendor. They could be like, oh, someone's willing to buy it for 12. I was going to sell it to this thing for 6 and actually not make any money. Yeah. And boom, boom, boom. And so somebody could literally just be, using the market boards to kind of help drive more commerce. And thus obviously like, that actually acts as a gill sink in a way, because that then takes more gill out of the economy because more money's handing, trading hands, etc. So yeah, now that you said it, like, oh, that would be great.
It won't happen.
No,
it won't happen.
We're sorry to be the lords of bummer here for you guys today.
I don't know that there's going to be anything narrative. I don't know that there's going to be anything revealed around anything post 6.0. So Pandemonium, Myths of the Realm, Venom saying like, hey, be sure you guys clear this certain raid because it might be required. Like, I don't know that we're going to get anything that much of a hint. Doesn't mean we wouldn't at all. I think that would be more likely. We have another live letter after this. We have one
November
that squeezes in like roughly
2 weeks,
a couple weeks out, roughly 2 weeks prior.
So so essentially the order of operations, guys, because right after this video, we're going to talk about tank changes that we want, like as we get it or expect, and then we'll be basically trying to cover the roles for you so that hopefully this week, as we build up to the live letter, it's real exciting. But to your point, the big question is October. So we know that there's going to be the media tour going on at some point in the next couple of weeks. And then within that kind of time period, we assume there'll be an embargo. So our rough estimate here would be live letter on the 17th, something in October, and then something in November to kind of help build up that hype for the game itself. And yeah, like I can't believe it's almost, we're about to
educated guess, but there's only so many weeks to get wrong. So there's only so many weeks left. And that guess comes from last time. Last time there was a media tour, and then there was a 2-week wait, and then there was a live letter and the embargo lift. And then the live letter came out slightly before the embargo lift. And so we actually posted to our channel a live letter summary like we typically do. But because we were invited to the last media tour, we were not allowed to say anything. And so for the live letter coverage, rather than our typical where like they say, this is what's being added, and we give context, I literally just read down what was added. And then we recorded a second live letter summary that came out after the embargo date where I could go back and say, so just watch the live letter and like, here's what I actually think, because we had to keep that out for fear of like accidentally stating something we weren't supposed to know yet.
Exactly. 100%. And I see Real Day J Dev says, be sure to complete all of Eureka and start Endwalker.
Yeah. If it were me, I'd finish Baldesian Arsenal.
Well,
what?
I guess we have a new plan. What are you doing today?
That'd really pull the rug out from under people.
That would be insane, and I would love it. Like I love, like that's the thing. Like, and this is my final thought, and I'll let you have one as well. Like when it comes down to it, I think with Ivalice, and I think with Boja, like it made Stormblood such a great expansion, because going into Shadowbringers, I always kind of felt like there was just a critical piece that was missing from the overall piece of content. Like all in all, I felt it was building up to something, and that completed it. How insane would it be to be like, yeah, you have this Eureka thing that's going on over here, and oh, by the way, it's super critical, much like the Crystal Tower. Like, I love that when they can bring side content back, but what a piece of side content, because Eureka was so divisive that I couldn't imagine. Like from a views and quote unquote drama time perspective, like that would be a really big video to cover if it was real. Like, hey guys,
your 2018 video talked about the companion app. Do you remember the drama about the companion app?
I'm still pissed and salty about the companion app. I'm not gonna lie. Like, oh, Final Fantasy XIV, they don't get greedy with your money. Like, I'm sorry. Have you seen the companion app? Like, I get it. Like, I love this game. I support this game. I wailed out for the lunar whale mount. Like, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to talk about it in a reality sense of like, yeah, they got this app and it sucks. Anyway, that's just my mini once every 2 years rant about the.
Can you imagine if they revealed something off platform, something like we're going to do lore summaries and we're partnering with, NoClip to make like the world's, or we're partnering with like, Pyromancer and all these creators, and we're going to make like big proper lore summaries, like the comic historian level, like those, everything you need to know about a comic, like 3 and 4 hours long, professionally produced, with access to the voice actors, with access to interviews. Like, imagine a director's cut edition of that, where you've got commentary from Yoshi P interjected into, I remember where we were at as of this quest, like a docu-series film of how to like go in and learn the lore. The one advantage that games who don't have their lore inside of them, games like Destiny and World of Warcraft, is that once you've breached the barrier of creating documentation outside of the game, sky's the limit. So the moment it's okay to write a book, you can now say like, well, let's go write a book on just Sid.
Yeah.
As opposed to like when you say like, hey, ours is all going to be in game. Now you're limited. The total canvas size is limited. So
if they did that,
if they started saying like, things like Netflix original live action series, things like that start to be 14 based. It's like, let's break that barrier and let's open up the ability to expand on this lore, trusting that they'll still continue to be this full featured in game. And that would be additional.
If they did that, I would say never been a better time for Ethos to take a full-time job, because it's like, all right, Square Enix is producing like this masterpiece that does what you do. Like if Square Enix produced Control.
I was thinking about him covering it. You're thinking like, oh, hey,
I'm glad
sorry about your channel, bro.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
No, there'd still be room.
There's absolutely still be room, because it's like if somebody wanted to go and make controller guides, it'd be like, all right, awesome. Yeah. I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to see what they do.
And you would just give further commentary and stuff like that, because like you look at like My Name is Bife with the Destiny community, like that becomes a really tight knit relationship. And at that point, ideally, Ethos would have known this was coming and wouldn't have taken a job at the company he took, because what he would have been was like, hey, they are doing it in house, and I haven't been able to tell you where I'm working because it's Square Enix.
Yeah. Surprise! I've been producing these things.
But he did not say it was Square Enix. He said it was a small startup. So
yeah,
unless he has a weird way of describing startup.
Square Enix is starting up in Australia.
Square Enix startup. They're just getting the hang of things.
He's working on the Oceanic Data Service, guys. Like let's root it for him. Anyway, Chris, why don't you take us out, man?
Well, I'm excited either way. It's a great time to be in Final Fantasy XIV. Great time to be new. Great time to be old. Great time to be invested. Friday, we will cover this thing. We will sum it up. It'll be translated in English live if you want to watch it live. That does make it like 4 hours long. So if you just want to catch our summary, you can catch it right here from me, Chris, and this guy, Brian. We'll see you guys. Take care.